Welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I be your host on the orange side of things. smAsho. And let's take a couple looks at the sun here. We're going to look at a 48-hour view at 193 angstroms. Large coronal holes facing the Earth right now, just north of the equator. South Pole coronal hole totally in charge of the current sheet, at least the part that we're on. And let's take a look at another view here. How about the 171 angstroms? And we'll show you some close-ups. And we do see a little bit of activity rising up here, as well as some setting down here. And next we'll look at HelioViewer to check out the fields. A little bit of magnetic organization happening up here and over here. Those are things to keep an eye on throughout the day. Get my drift? Keep an eye on. Anyway, here's the North Polar region. We also made one for the South Polar region. And you see that former sunspot 2758 setting in the west. And here's the same area in 304 angstroms. And that South Pole coronal hole is looking large. A couple little small crown prominences popping up down there. Yet other indications that the sun is ramping back up in activity. And that's a good thing. Here's the sun diving comet that we saw a couple of days ago. And it looks like it is just about broken up in the corona now. It's almost completely out of sight. And by the way, if you want to see where this is located, this is what we use to view coronal mass ejections that are Earth facing. Stereo A is someplace out here. Stereo B is someplace out here. So if you want to check this out for yourself, search for the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. Integrated Space Weather Analysis. Head to page 7. Click on Stereo A Core 2. Press Animate. I do 100 frames at 20 frames per second. And you can check that out yourself. Looks like that one is not going to be visible very much longer, as it appears to be getting a lot dimmer as there's a coronal jet right there. Anyway, here's where things are located today on St. Patrick's Day in the solar system. There's where things will be on the 24th. It looks like a new moon. And by the way, we'll be doing a live stream at the moment of the equinox in about 3 days. I believe it's Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night at 11:49 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be streaming live about a half hour before and about a half hour after that, I anticipate. Here's where things like stars and galaxies and constellations are located. It's 3:39. Make that 3:40. Do you know where your Mars is? Well, it's just rising. Oh, it's the moon. Never mind. Anyway, there is a moon rising. KP index is at 1. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at 70 solar flux units. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. No surprise there. Again, keep an eye on those active regions. We're going to skip cosmic rays today. I believe we covered that yesterday. If you want to see it, watch yesterday's space weather video. Phi angle was shifting as we did show prep, and you can see the current shift is still ongoing. Current phi angle around 148 degrees. And we just saw wild shifts in the BTBZ also. Moving into extreme South Pole oriented magnetism there and showing a very strong field over the past hour or two. Solar wind densities dropped down from yesterday to 8.75, and this is looking more and more like a coronal hole wind stream here as we see the solar wind speed ramping up now at 406 kilometers a second. There's the data from ACE. And next we'll talk about Lou Dobbs. One of our viewers suggested that we show the velocity on the geospace magnetosphere movies because he believes that there's a Dobbs object. And if you're wondering what a Dobbs object is, it's some sort of electromagnetic field generating device which is theoretical and not actually being used for real, but one of our viewers believes that it is. And so guess what? We're just showing you pressure. It's 4 hours of data, courtesy University of Michigan. And we did see an increase in the magnetohydrodynamic pressure here around 6:30, I believe. And that's, I think that's coinciding with the uptick in the solar wind speed. Now you can see it's getting a little bit more charged up, a little bit more magnetohydrodynamic pressure there, right at the end of the video. Next we're going to look at ground magnetic perturbations. And we're going to look at the pole view for once. Again, at 6:30, we see a significant magnetic pulse coming in. Right about there. And I'm going to let that play through a second time as it refreshed. And you can see the main perturbations in the north are over the Canadian North Pole. And the South Pole still looks like it's creeping toward southwestern Australia. Here's the globe view. And once again it refreshed, so we'll let that play all the way through. That's 4 hours of data, which we archive daily, courtesy University of Michigan. There's that global pulse around 6:30 UT. And there you can see the South Pole, how it's not on the Antarctic continent, it's in the southern Indian Ocean instead. GOES magnetometers are still looking kind of spiky and sawtoothed there as opposed to smooth curves. And no surprise, as we look at the Gong 2 data daily, this is the top view ecliptic plane field plot, as if you're looking at the sun from the pole. And we're going to continue to see this spikiness. There is some activity right here, this bunched up plasma region. Could be an active region, and we're not going to really worry about it too much and look at it on stereo A, although if you want to, feel free. Next, line of sight field plot, showing you the B field in blue, and the South Pole in red and the North Pole in green. Electron flux is still very low. There you can see the relativistic electrons just refreshed. And the GOES electron flux, you can see it's quite on the floor here. And when this coronal hole wind stream subsides, we're going to see this go back into warning areas. Here's 6 hours of the ionosphere. And the South Pacific is looking a little bit anomalous once again, as it's charging up at nighttime, and we've been covering that for about 3 months now. Otherwise, looking pretty normal. Here's the latest frame, that one at 7:30 Universal Time. Thanks to our patrons, by the way. Consider becoming a patron and help to support our operations and increase the probability that these videos will continue to exist in a publicly viewable fashion. Also consider Subscribestar, our latest foray into crowdfunding. And don't forget to follow us on Alt Tech. And if you're still using Google as a search engine, please enter into the modern world and start using a reasonable search engine that provides objective search results instead of Google, which only provides biased search results. And follow us on Alt Tech for similar reasons. Minds.com is a good alternative to Facebook. And And we're getting very close to 600,000 views there without trying very hard at all. So check us out there at minds.com/smashomash. Also, we are on BitChute and seeing incredible success over there, seeing many times as many views as we see here on YouTube as our videos get demonetized on the regs. Let's talk about Sagittarius A-star real quick. Turns out that Sagittarius A-star is increasing its activity. If you're wondering what Sagittarius A-star is, Sagittarius A-star is the massive radio source believed by many mainstream astronomers to be a, quote, supermassive black hole, end quote. I just call it a radio source because I can quite easily verify that it is indeed a radio source. Somebody called smAsho has been studying the X-ray data from XMM Newton, Chandra, and the Swift observatories. I do have one of those on tap to show you the transients from. And while this is only about X-ray flaring, Sagittarius A-star has also been ramping up in some other wavelengths. I don't know if you remember a story a few months ago about Sagittarius A-star showing a historic infrared burst. If you want to read that, it's on sciencealert.com. And if you want to look up the transients, at least from the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory, the Burst Alert X-ray telescope, just go to the page, click Control-F, hit Control-F for Find. Sagittarius A-star is SGR space A. And there are the X-ray transients. And you can verify what they've said here on this graph in that over the past few years, you can see this is slightly trending up and getting a little bit more volatile there over the past 7 years. There's the daily data, and there's 3 days of data, really 2 days of data. And you can follow other objects here, which we're always interested in, such as, oh, I don't know, Cygnus X3, a thing that actually does indeed affect you, unlike Sagittarius A-star, because there's just a little bit too much stuff in between you and Sagittarius A-star. But there's not too much stuff between this object and you, the massive X-ray binary Cygnus X3, otherwise known as the tail of the swan Deneb. And it has just ramped up to its more normal state here. See, this is the 0.03 line, and the 0.03 line is here. So it's actually at a normal state now instead of a quiescent state, where it was for a while when it showed this part of the graph. So Cygnus X3, we won't get into why it's relevant. We'll just move on to show you the pressure maps on windy.com. And I'll let that advance about 24 hours via the GFS forecast. Please leave a comment if you're under pressure as a result of fear-mongering and the coronavirus. And yes, folks, it's very serious. It's very serious. There's where we expect pressure zones to be in 24 hours. Next, we're going to look at earthquakes. And we still see nothing over a magnitude 6. So it looks like here's a deep quake coming in about 24 hours ago, yesterday in southern Alaska. Just going to scroll up the list. There's a deep quake in Afghanistan. It's a 4.3 magnitude at 121 kilometers depth. Nothing too out of the ordinary here, except to state that it is an earthquake drought, folks. And we're seeing a extremely low number of earthquakes in the 6, 7, and 8 magnitude over the past months, indeed. Here's a 4.5 at the Philippines. It's at 142 kilometers depth. Remember, folks, earthquake droughts end in large earthquakes, and if you're in a prone zone, please have a plan. Next, we've moved on to the, oh my God, COVID-19 section. And we're going to talk about crypto real quick. It's been taking a hit. Here's the graph of Bitcoin on the Coinbase exchange. By the way, we have a link to the Coinbase exchange. If you want to earn $10 in free Bitcoin, use our link. You'll earn $10 in free Bitcoin just for signing up for Coinbase. It's completely free, and you'll be able to do whatever you want with that $10. Looks like there's a little bit of a support level here around 5,400 bucks per coin. And that's a 1-year chart, and it's not looking particularly healthful. Next, we're going to look at Ethereum. Now, folks, I do have a small token investment in crypto, basically a proof of concept investment, and I'm considering beefing up my Ethereum position now. Although these things are not looking like a safe haven for your money, like a precious metals. It looks like it's correlating with the stock market, which is not what you really want to see. Also, part of the reason why the stock market crash looks engineered is because of the way the bonds and futures are behaving. For some reason, gold has been selling off, an indication that institutional money isn't worried for real about the stock market. That makes 0 sense. Gold at only $1,485.60 an ounce. I believe silver also got hammered, all the way down to $12.73, folks. Now that is awfully strange, as silver and gold are real safe havens and real money. That is unbelievable. That is the lowest that we've ever covered on the channel. $12.73 per ounce. Another indication that this is not a real market crash, that there is money sloshing around. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense, folks, for precious metals to sell off at the same time that the stock market sells off. The Dow Jones down nearly 3,000 points, a change of 12.9%. 12.3% drop in the NASDAQ, 970 points, and a nearly 12% drop in the S&P, down 324 points yesterday. Let's check and see what the futures show. And oil down to 30 bucks a barrel. So these are all very anomalous, folks, as if there's going to be some kind of worldwide disaster, people would normally hide in precious metals. We don't see that. We see a massive sell-off, and that makes no sense. So travel stocks have been hit, and this looks like a buying opportunity to me all day long. And you see the bonds right now, see the way the bond yields have risen, an indication of selling in the bonds. So this is money sloshing around in the markets, folks. It's coming out of stocks, going into bonds, coming out of bonds, going into precious metals, going out of precious metals, going into currencies. So yeah, this does not look legit, and none of the technicals add up at all. And I mean, maybe everybody's sidelining cash for some reason, but with the way cash looks, all central banks are reducing their interest rates down to 0 or less, which means you're going to experience massive inflation if you cash out. Silver, all I can say is silver, and welcome to the neo-renaissance, folks. Have you head to smashomash.org yet? smashomash.org. It's got a link to the forum, smashomash.com/forum, and we've got a massive section on the coronavirus. Here are the latest posts that we did this morning. Australian researchers have mapped the immune response to the coronavirus, so perhaps have a read about that. It progresses the exact same way as the flu does. What a surprise there. Now, rapid spread of the coronavirus outbreak fueled by stealth transmission. Keep in mind this virus is able to stay alive for several days on surfaces, and that is one way you can get stealth transmission. In other words, grocery stores are going to continue to be a disease vector, so perhaps consider wearing gloves when you go to the grocery store. Maybe get some chemical gloves, wash them off when you get home. But I have a feeling it's going to be pretty hard to avoid being exposed to coronavirus. So expect to see the cases continue to rise and rise and rise, and the higher that gets, the lower the mortality rate will be. My guess is that there's probably about 1 billion people that already have it around the world, and you cannot stop the spread of a thing like this, as far as I'm concerned, in any way. All you can do is just be vigilant, wash your hands, and do all the normal stuff that you would do to avoid being infected with anything, from the common cold to the flu to the coronavirus. One of the ways you can help protect your neighborhood, if you haven't already, is to set up a Nextdoor account. Now, I've become the next door lead for our neighborhood. We've got about half of the households around where I'm located on the next door network. And it's a great way to, I don't know, if you're holed up in your house, perhaps you could trade things with your neighbors. You can inform neighbors of any problems. You can provide security services. You can report crime and all that sort of stuff at nextdoor.com. Nancy Pelosi here likes it as she pushes her bike. And I wouldn't let her ride my bike, but hey, she's smart enough to get nextdoor.com, so perhaps set up your neighborhood if you haven't already. They'll even send out physical postcards, as most of us don't know our neighbors' email addresses. So they will send out physical postcards for you for free to invite your neighbors, and it's been a great success in our neighborhood. Total confirmed cases of COVID-19, 182,407. Deaths up to 7,154, and we see the yellow graph leveling out here a little bit. And don't be surprised if this suddenly spikes up again, as there are millions and millions of test kits out there. And really, the higher this number gets, the lower the mortality rate's going to be, as we see 79,433 folks have recovered. And I don't know. I just don't seem to think it's as deadly as some people think it is. And I've been saying it since the 23rd of January. So if you haven't checked out smAshomash.com/forum, perhaps have a read. Set up a login, make a topic, talk about whatever you want. Don't make a fool of yourself, because we won't censor you. Next, we'll look at volcanoes. We see a 6,000-foot ash plume over Mount Aso. Sakurajima not identifiable as far as satellite imagery. Don't try to pole vault the caldera. It could be erupting. Dacono exploding. Flight level 7,000 there. Yes, sir. Is showing some ash on webcam. Not sure of the altitude of that. Popocatépetl, sporadic emissions as it mildly explodes. I don't know what's mild about a volcanic explosion, but in any case, Sangay exploding, flight level 21,000 there, and strong puffs of volcanic ash coming from Sabancaya are an indication not to attempt to do a back handspring over the caldera there. Next, looking at the jet streams, and we see some anomalous jet stream down here in the south. Check out those weird flows. And we see a doubled and tripled up jet stream there in the north. Here's the western world. And let's move on to some value-added services. Here is the water vapor map for Africa and Europe. Here's the water vapor map for the Far East and Oceania. Here's the water vapor map for the U.S. I see a ribbon of dry air over Minnesota, Dakota, Montana. And we're just going to take a quick look at Pennsylvania. By the way, for you new viewers out there, thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And I'm always interested in what's going on above my head. And it looks like there's going to be a dry, moist air demarcation line over the center of the state, which is moistening up. And let's just move on to the U.S. Doppler radar map for St. Patrick's Day. Looks like we are getting rained on, and I think it's clearing out. And for that, we thank you. Next, lightning maps. I like to use lightningmaps.org. It's good times. And it looks like there's some lightning over the U.S. Hey, Marmaduke. Hey, Paragould. Hey, Pocahontas. Is that where Liz Warren lives? There's thunder rolling in. Next time you hear some, impress your friends and scare your foes by forecasting thunder. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in to the Smash stream. Whether you viewed it live or you viewed it in syndication, is it live or is it Memorex? Here's the intensity gram of the local yellow dwarf. And that didn't load right. And we're seeing 0 sunspots, which is why we're showing you the image. Here's the magnetogram. And this looks like it could become a sunspot up here, folks. Keep an eye on that throughout the day. When I say ion, the pun is intentional. Last but not least, we're going to do a 131 angstroms view, and then we're going to close this thing out and escape from the Smash bunker as if we robbed a bank. Have you stocked up on toilet paper? Are you really worried about toilet paper? Just buy a regular size roll, folks. We don't see disruptions in the food supply chain, at least not in Northeast North America, so quit freaking out. Have you stocked up on elderberry wine? We have an undisclosed number of rolls of toilet paper and bottles of elderberry wine. That information is classified. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staring at the sun. Remember, when you do so, don't drink. And if you do drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo Renaissance, and may the solar wind be at your